Drive in Auburn. They serve all your business needs, including employee benefits planning, corporate design and business administration, investments and wealth management, and customized business insurance solutions. Their phone number is 866-841-4600 or on the web at cgibusinesssolutions.com.
Bring your kitchen to life with Queen City Cabinetry. Located at 87 Elm Street in the historic Sunbeam Mall in Manchester. Open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. and Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. They can be reached at 603-222-2007 or on the web at queencitycabinetrynh.com. Come see the possibilities. Queen City Cabinetry, another proud sponsor of WMNH.
Come on down to the Hop Knot at 1000 Elm Street, Manchester's premier craft beer and gourmet pretzel bar. Tell us more, Trudy.
We make our dough fresh every day. We make a variety of styles of pretzels and serve craft beer, cocktails, and a few bottles of wine. We do the traditional pretzel, and we have multiple flavors for that. We also do stuffed pretzels, pretzel sandwiches, free dessert pretzels, and pretzel knots.
The Hop Knot in the Brady Sullivan Plaza at 1000 Elm Street.
Clemento's Pizzeria, family friendly, awesome for a date night. Clemento's Pizzeria. For delivery, call 603-782-8450. Clemento's Pizzeria, the best pizza in town. 1875 South Willow Street in Manchester, New Hampshire. Best cocktails around. Come in as friends and leave as family.
You are listening to WMNH-LP, Manchester's radio, broadcasting at 95.3 megahertz frequency modulation from the top of 1000 Elm Street. Our studios are located at 1045 Elm Street and licensed to Manchester Public Television Service in Manchester, New Hampshire, USA. Contact us by email at WMNH953@gmail.com or through our website at WMNHradio.org.
So
Welcome, everybody. Here we go. It is that time again. Matt Connarton Unleashed, and we are live from the studios of WMNH 95.3 FM in glorious downtown Manchester, New Hampshire. Also on Comcast 97 if you're in Manchester. And hello to all of our online listeners across the nation and around the globe. You can go to my website, mattconnerton.com, for all your live streaming options, social media links, contact info, show archives, etc., etc. Today is Tuesday, July 25, 2023. So nice to have you all with me. Coming up today in the second hour, at the top of the hour, we're going to be joined by Grandma Mousey, great band from Austin, Texas, and that song that I played, Barrel of a Wave, that's one of my favorites from them. Really good. I like how it kind of goes from this sort of dreamy, almost jam band vibe to just a metal sounding chorus. And quite the mix of influences in this band's music. So really looking forward to, I know Josh Garcia from the band is going to be joining us, and I'm not sure if he's going to have other band members with him, but that will be happening today in the 5 o'clock hour, 5 p.m. Eastern, of course, for those of you online. And they're in Austin, Texas. I think they're an hour behind us, so 4 o'clock their time. But really looking forward to that, talking with them. So that will be coming up today. And the most important part, I almost forgot the most important part, it's the world radio premiere of their brand new single. It's called Deep Diver. This has not been played anywhere. It's not been heard anywhere. You'll be hearing it for the first time on this program. The world radio premiere of the new single, same singer, the new single from Grandma Mousey. It is called Deep Diver. So that is coming up today. Very, very excited about that. Let's see. If you'd like to join us in the meantime, 603-250-6007. The studio line is open, 603-250-6007. You can also text us at 617-917-4476. I'm on social media at Matt Connarton. You can email me, matt@mattconnerton.com. And of course, you can interact and opine in the Facebook live chat. But the best thing to do so that we can hear and enjoy your dulcet tones is to give us a call at 603-250-6007. By the way, DJ Steve is in the Facebook live chat. Now, DJ Steve, of course, you can hear every Friday night on Retro Spectrum Radio with Paulie C. I'm one of Paul's co-hosts on that show. And also DJ Steve and, of course, Mike from Queen City Cabinetry, who's not only one of our sponsors here at WMNH, but one of our co-hosts on that show as well. But DJ Steve is in the chat room. He says, "Good afternoon, everybody. Very interesting opening song. I really liked it." Yeah, I like it too. Grandma Mousey, look them up online. By the way, I will definitely be asking where the name comes from if anyone's curious. Also, I see Melanie La Liberty and JFed both in the Facebook live chat, of course, from the great state of Vermont. Also, Alex Whiteley, all the way from the UK, joins us in the chat room. Hello, Alex. He says, "Hi, guys." A couple other just quick notes. I want to say thank you again, of course, to Steve Gamlin for joining us yesterday on the show. When Jenny does all the booking, and quick update on Jenny in a moment too, but she does all the booking. And when she originally had talked to Steve, it was like, he was going to come on from 4 to 4:30. And I remember thinking, and I ran into him outside too on the way, and I'd never met him in person until yesterday, but I parked in the parking garage where I usually park. And then I'm coming up the street and I see him putting money in to get the not a parking ticket. That's what you get when you don't pay for it. Parking, whatever, the thing you put in your windshield, so they know you paid. And so he's doing that, and I saw the shirt he was wearing. It said "Got Vision" on it, so I recognized the shirt immediately. So I said, "Oh, hey, I know you." And so we started talking, and I'm thinking, yeah, we're going to need more than 30 minutes with him. And what ended up happening was, thank goodness, he had his afternoon free. He had kept his afternoon open for the show because, I kept asking him, can you stay longer? Can you stay longer? And he was very accommodating. And finally, it got to be well after 5 p.m. I hadn't hit our 5 o'clock break yet. Nobody, really says anything if I don't, do it exactly on time. So it's not a problem, but it is important to show love to our amazing sponsors. So, it got to be like 5:15 and I'm like, I really should take a quick commercial break. Do you want to just stay for the rest of the show? And he said, yes. So he was very generous with his time and I appreciated it tremendously. And I think we had a great discussion. So if you missed yesterday's show, please check it out. Steve Gamlin, he, a motivational speaker, also a former stand-up comedian and a radio guy. And, I love talking to people about radio. I think I got a lot out of it too, just other elements of our conversation. But I love hearing old radio war stories. Great stuff. So that was a lot of fun. So I appreciate him coming on yesterday and actually hanging out for the full 2 hours. Jenny, by the way, now let me just look at her Facebook page. The last thing I saw that she had posted, Jenny is in Washington, D.C. I brought her to the airport yesterday, right before the show. Of course, her plane kept getting delayed. But and she flies back tonight. I have to pick her up tonight. But the latest thing she posted, this went up an hour ago, our meeting with Senator Shaheen went very well. They are now on my case. So she's been in meetings there and speaking to people about healthcare, and I got to have a meeting with Senator Jean Shaheen of New Hampshire down in Washington, D.C. So she's doing great work. So proud of her. But I'll get to hear all about it tonight when she makes her triumphant return. So that's where Jenny's been. If you're curious, she might even be listening, but probably not, because she's probably in the middle of a meeting. So she's been very busy, but she really thrives on it. I mean, obviously it's physically exhausting for her, but it's important to her, and it's important to a lot of people what she's doing and advocating for healthcare for people who get denied by insurance companies for the treatments that they need. And of course, it's something that we speak about quite a bit on the show, because it's something that affects and touches so many people. And even if you've never had to deal with health issues or had to deal with the struggle of an insurance company that finds any excuse or reason they can to deny you coverage, even if you've never experienced that, you certainly know someone who has. It touches everybody, this commodified for-profit healthcare system that we have in this country. And so it's important to hold healthcare companies accountable, health insurance companies, I should say more precisely. And again, we won't get into a whole discussion about it now. If she's up for it, she might come in with me on Thursday so she can tell us all about her trip. But she is doing great work. So, Alex Whiteley says in the chat room, made 2 new friends after last night's show. Good stuff. Excellent, sir. Also, Crystal, our friend from the great state of Illinois, joins us in the chat and says, hello, everyone. Hello, Crystal. And I see Chris Rose from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is in there as well. Hello, Chris. 603-250-6007 is the studio line, 603-250-6007. I do hope that Dave Ridley calls us. I'd like to speak with him in the first hour if he can. He called yesterday, but when we have a guest here, it's I didn't want to get sidetracked. So, but I do hope he calls back because I have some things I want to ask him about. I want to look at this now today. This is you know what? There's audio of the actual segment here. Let me see if I'll play this audio of this. Now, this is from President Biden signing the proclamation for Emmett Till in the monument. But this is actually a clip from Fox News, and Harris Faulkner on Fox News had some words to say about this positively. And, because it's Fox, you would almost expect, it's Fox. They probably slam Biden for being woke or whatever. But no, this is a clip from the Fox News show Outnumbered. And I want to play what Harris Faulkner said about this. I thought it was interesting. Let me see there we go.
The proclamation I'm signing establishes the Emmett Till, Mamie Till Mobley National Monument.
The President of the United States, they're signing a proclamation designating 3 sites across Illinois and Mississippi in an effort to protect places that tell Emmett Till's story, as well as reflect on the activism of his mother, Mamie Till Mobley. Both of them instrumental in keeping the story of Till's murder alive, his mom, and now the President of the United States. So we watched this going on. And I would just say this, and the president did acknowledge it somewhat, but often Democrats don't. We have come through the fire in this nation. We've come through prosperity, wars, and more. And we've done it together. We share this history together. So whenever somebody says that we can't get to the next place, remember days like this, what's possible in this country. We're the greatest nation on the planet. We can do amazing things, and we can do them together. God bless America.
Now, I wanted to just kind of comment on what she said there. And again, I thought, she kind of took a swipe at Democrats there. Again, it's Fox News, so she has to get that in. But I like that, she didn't, like I said, it's Fox and it's that show Outnumbered. So I'm sure Greg Gutfeld or somebody had something to say about woke Democrats. And actually, he said something. Apparently, he's taking some fire for something he said regarding the Holocaust. I haven't had a chance to actually look at that yet. God only knows what that was. I'm sure it's something horrible, but I don't know. I'll try to keep an open mind. But Greg Gutfeld, I've always said this. To me, he's a poor man's Adam Carolla. From the moment I first became aware of Greg Gutfeld, like 20 years ago, I just remember thinking, this is a guy who wants to be Adam Carolla, but he can't, because Adam Carolla is actually, they're both conservatives, but Adam Carolla is actually funny. And Greg Gutfeld tries really, really hard to be funny, but he tries specifically to be funny in the exact same way that Adam Carolla is funny, but he'll never be able to. Not that it matters. He's obviously enormously successful not being Adam Carolla. So in terms of what she said, well, actually, we'll come back to that because we do have a call. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's this? Sorry, I stuttered. Hello?
Hello?
Hey, what's up?
Hello? How come you don't answer with a full spiel?
I did.
You did. I think I'm having bad reception.
Yes, it would appear so. Hello, sir. It's just John Hopwood's on the line.
Is there somebody there talking to you?
Only you.
Are there any voices in the studio, or is there actually a human being?
It's just me, John.
Well, I'm at a hospital, and I'm getting ready to have an MRI.
Oh, okay.
On my lower back.
Oh, that's no fun.
I was reading stuff that you're not supposed to drink caffeine or alcohol before an MRI. But the people where I'm going, they didn't send me any instructions at all.
Oh, really?
No, and I went on their site, and they don't mention caffeine or alcohol. But how many people has the VA finished off in its existence of slightly over 100 years? I would put it in quite a considerable amount.
I didn't know that. I'd never heard that before, that you can't have caffeine or alcohol before an MRI.
It's supposed to constrict your blood vessels, or then it's supposed to dilate your blood vessels. And I always thought dilate meant constrict, but I guess dilate is the opposite of constrict.
Oh, okay.
I'm actually in my car waiting to go in with trepidation. So I heard you mentioning somebody named Adam Carolla. I thought that guy was a serial killer back in California in the 1970s.
If I'm not mistaken, podcaster and comedian Adam Carolla, as far as I'm aware, has never actually murdered anyone.
That's unfortunate that he has a name that evokes a serial killer. But then again, my age is showing. I remember serial killers from the 60s, if not the 70s, with some firsthand knowledge.
Uh-huh. Well, that is unfortunate that he shares that name.
Do you have any opinion on the use of serial killers as Fox News hosts?
I would say that if someone is a serial killer, I don't think they should have a cable news show on Fox or anywhere, to be honest with you.
would that rule out Henry Kissinger, even if he is 100 years old? Or is he just merely a war criminal?
I don't know. Well, I don't think Henry Kissinger is in any condition to be hosting a show. I will say, though, if it's sweeps week and they really want to get ratings, that would be a way to murder the competition. See what I did there?
That's a good one.
That's why I'm in afternoon drive.
Geez, I don't know. I think this is an exciting idea.
Mm-hmm.
They use ex-military people all the time, if not to host shows, to get on get on their programs and thump the tub for the Pentagon and more spending. But and actual serial killers, I mean, the world survived Geraldo Rivera, I guess, and Jerry Springer.
Geraldo's still with us. So when you say the world survived Geraldo, there's still time.
I thought he retired.
Oh, Geraldo, well, he left Fox News. Geraldo will never retire. You can tell. He's one of those dudes who's going to work till he's dead. You can see it.
Did he finally get to Fox News at some time in his, I was going to say speckled career, but that's not quite the word. I guess I'm a little nervous about the MRI.
I understand.
Spackled? Freckled?
He was with Fox for a long time, but no, he's out, and I think he's going to do a podcast or something. He'll still do something. Geraldo, as long as his mustache is still as spectacular as it is, as long as he has that spectacular mustache, he will continue working. I'm sure. Now, if he wakes up one day and the mustache is missing, then that's probably it for Geraldo. He won't have long left at that point.
Well, there seems to be a natural. What would you call it? I'm forgetting because of my nervousness. I'm forgetting all the great words that I learned in the 80s and 90s while I was still employed. And every 3 years, they'd launch some, management initiative like Synergy or the Virtuous Circle. Speaking of Synergy, wouldn't a show featuring the mustaches of Geraldo Rivera and Steve Bolton seem like a natural for, if not Fox News, I guess, because Geraldo's on the outs. And, of course, they wouldn't want Steve Bolton on because he fell out with God, a.k.a. Jesus Christ, a.k.a. Donald John Trump.
Wow.
So perhaps, I guess, CNN is trying to rebrand itself.
Oh, you mean John Bolton. I didn't know who you meant at first when you said Steve Bolton, and then I started thinking about mustaches, and then I said, oh, John Bolton, yes.
I guess you and I are the only couple of people who really know that Steve is John Bolton's mustache.
Right, yes. That's true. Yeah. For the people might not know the backstory to this because it's been a long time since we talked about this. But John Bolton's mustache is actually a sentient being of its own named Steve that attached itself to John Bolton's face. And any evil that John Bolton has done in the past, it wasn't actually John Bolton, it was his mustache, who controls the words and the deeds of John Bolton.
There's some rather exciting testimony that will be coming up in the House hearings on non-human intelligence that reportedly has to do with Steve and Steve's attempts to get the members of the Trump administration to evoke the 25th Amendment.
Oh, my. Well, that
in
could
fact,
be
Steve might be the agent provocateur, entirely behind all this January 6th malarkey that the House, Speaker of the House, McCarthy, is considering having the impeachment, at least one of the impeachment, if not both. What do they call it? Expunged or is it impugned?
Expunged.
It's already been impugned, so expunge it, right?
Yes. It will be
very exciting thought. The hearings, getting Steve Bolton up on the stand.
Well, seeing him without, will John Bolton be with him? Because I don't think one goes anywhere without the other. I think they're quite attached, if you will.
Ooh. The interesting part is, does Steve, as a non-human intelligence, actually have recourse to both the First Amendment and the Fifth Amendment. The Fifth Amendment, of course, would be the controlling body of law for testimony before a congressional body. But the Hollywood 10, under the advice of the Communist Party USA attorneys, decided to use the First Amendment, which is always a very exciting way to attack the issue, when you really don't want to give up the testimony about who and what you are and what you've been up to.
Well, I think ultimately, and I suppose this would have to be adjudicated by the Supreme Court, perhaps, but the question to me would be, does the mustache itself, in this case, Steve, have the same constitutional protections of a fully formed human? And I'm not sure that he does.
That's exactly true, and that's what makes it so exciting, these upcoming hearings. Will John Bolton attach himself to Steve so that they both can take the Fifth Amendment and cover up the nefarious planning that caused the illustrious former leader of the First World, and many of us believe who's still the actual President of the United States, Donald John Trump, a.k.a. Jesus, whether their perfidious plots will remain obfuscated behind the legalese of the U.S. Constitution. And, I don't like to, that sounds kind of sinister and a put down of the Constitution, but, there have been many gangsters that have hid behind the aegis, or the shield, as you will, of the Fifth Amendment.
Yes. Well, the former president did once say that if you take the Fifth, it's because you have something to hide, before taking the Fifth many times and many
That's one
instances
of the
during
most
depositions.
astounding things about our president, how prescient he is.
Yes.
How he's the alpha and omega, how he knows the past, including such things as people like Jefferson Davis was a great patriot, who actually benefited the so-called enslaved people on his plantations in Mississippi, to the future itself. I think that is proof of his not only, I'd like to use the word godhood, but that sounds so trendy. When we say his deityness, so that he actually anticipated this. I'm Bolton and Steve hiding behind the Fifth Amendment.
Well, you shouldn't look. I mean, as far as whatever one's thoughts about Steve might be, you shouldn't trust a man whose face you cannot see. So, while
that goes Geraldo Rivera too?
Well, yes, because you don't know. Because obviously, if the true villain is the mustache, how did the mustache choose that face to affix itself to? And I would assume that if the mustache is the true villain, the mustache would only affix itself to the face of someone that it could trust to engage in such villainy with the mustache. And therefore, I would trust neither the mustache nor the man behind the stash.
It is true. There is something somewhat sinister about men with mustaches, either ones that are very, very pencil thin, which you don't really see anymore,
right,
since Clark Gable died like 60 some odd years ago, or these big walrus mustaches, the Wilford Brimleys, that God knows what happened to him. I think that he kicked the bucket himself.
Diabetes.
Is Wilford Brimley indeed dead?
I think he's actually still alive, but I think his mustache has thinned out a bit.
Lives on. His mustache lives on.
Well, the mustache, from what I understand, if you have an unusually large mustache, it never quite decomposes. So even if Wilford Brimley is dead, if you were to exhume him, he would be nothing but skeleton, but the mustache would still be there.
It's like the Napoleon's genitals, right?
I don't know, but we won't get into that. But
I think they were pickled.
Paulie C is in the Facebook live chat and says Wilford Brimley died in 2020. I did not realize that, but his mustache lives on. And even if his mustache doesn't live on literally in the physical world, it certainly lives on in our hearts.
I don't really like to go down certain avenues because although I do believe in a wide variety of conspiracies,
Yes.
the term conspiracy theorist, quote unquote, is often used to talk great patriots like myself. Isn't it ironic that Wilford Brimley, who I'm sure supported our president, that is Donald J. Trump, Jesus, died in 2020? Is that just a coincidence, Matt?
There are no coincidences. I think that there's
really
something to
aren't.
that. I think that there's something to that. I do. You know what?
Okay, Matt, I've got this pamphlet I just picked up here at the VA.
Yes.
About KEK, K-E-K, and about Donald Trump being a amphibian, not a reptilian alien, but an amphibian alien. And since I still have a lot of little boy in me, I've always enjoyed amphibians.
Yes. Well,
So the fact that he might be an amphibian alien or non-human intelligence, I find that kind of satisfying in a way, like the return to childhood that Ronald Reagan all took us into in the 80s was satisfying. So I'm going to let you go now pondering these imponderables.
yes.
Is Steve actually a non-human intelligence? And if so, what does that have to do with our true president, who might himself be an alien intelligence, non-human intelligence? We don't like to use the word alien on your show.
Right. That is correct.
And they could actually be two types of non-human intelligence that have brought their battle from the stars right down here to Earth. Oh God, the very thought of it is giving me chills, and this desire to write a screenplay, you know?
Well, you'll have a lot to think about during your MRI, much to distract you as you ponder the imponderable.
That's true. I will have a lot to think about. So I will let you go as I get ready to go into my death chamber.
No, jeez, don't call it that. All right, John, good luck.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye-bye. All right, that was our friend John Hopwood. I guess John was reaching out because he has told me, and it makes sense. I am a hypnotherapist after all. He finds my sometimes my presence, or in this case, being on the phone, hearing my voice helps to calm him down. I've never had an MRI, but it doesn't sound fun. I know that particularly if you're claustrophobic in any way, and I know that some people I've talked to didn't think they were claustrophobic until they had to have an MRI done. I know there's a variation of it where it's open, so if you are claustrophobic, you can have a different, there's another way that they do it, or some other kind of machine where you're not closed in. But it does sound unpleasant, so I hope that John's all right. And I'd never heard that you couldn't have. I wouldn't think you'd want alcohol anyway before anything like that. I would think, but caffeine, you can't have caffeine before an MRI. I had never heard that before. Well, that does open up the studio line. And by the way, we will circle back to the subject I was just getting into, but. When John said he was about to have something medical done, I did want to keep him on the phone for a while because I know that he probably is. I certainly don't think he was putting us on about being nervous. So, but the studio line is open, 603-250-6007, 603-250-6007. What I wanted to say though about and I will look at the Garth Brooks thing in a moment too, because somebody just shared something interesting related to what John and I were talking about. But what I wanted to say about what Harris Faulkner said, and I don't know why I struggle with that name, Faulkner from Fox News. Well, if you don't know, actually, so we should back up a little bit, because if you don't know about what happened today, President Biden, let me find a news story that explains it a little bit. What would be the best? Because there was a proclamation Yeah, we'll go with the good old NPR one. Biden designates a national monument honoring Emmett Till and his mother. So this was today. On what would have been Emmett Till's 82nd birthday, President Biden signed a proclamation designating a national monument to honor the child who was abducted, tortured, and murdered in 1955 after being accused of whistling at a white woman. The national monument, which will include sites in Illinois and Mississippi, will honor Till's mother, Mamie Till Mobley, who was instrumental in keeping the story of Till's murder alive and whose fierce advocacy was a catalyst for the civil rights movement. Biden said it was hard to hold back his emotions when he was preparing his remarks for the White House ceremony, attended by members of the Till family, congressional lawmakers, and civil rights leaders. Biden said, quote, "I found myself trying to temper my anger. I can't fathom what it must have been like," unquote. Biden added, noting that he was 12 years old at the time of Till's murder. Quote, "I know no matter how much time has passed, how many birthdays, how many events, how many anniversaries, it's hard to relive this," unquote. And that is something I think President Biden is pretty effective at. I think even those who don't like him or despise him even would have to acknowledge that, you know, he's good at projecting empathy in these situations. Some people are better at that than others, and I do think that's part of his strength. One of his, I have criticisms of him too, and in fact, as much as I might be saying something pleasant about President Biden right now, don't worry, I'm going to stick the knife in on a completely different subject later in the show. So if you're sitting there seething about, oh, he's saying good things about President Biden and I just hate him so much, don't worry, I'll be mean about him later on something else, you know. Some people just get so mad. How dare you say good things about this president? Anyway, the new monument, Biden's fourth since taking office, will be managed by the National Park Service. It will include more than 5 acres spread across 3 distinct sites and is aimed at protecting spaces that tell the story of Till's life and death. I'm going to kind of skip down a little bit. Biden, who signed the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act in 2020, making lynching a federal hate crime, emphasized the importance of telling the, quote, truth and full history of our nation, unquote, nodding to a larger national conversation about how to teach history. And that's relevant because of what's been going on in Florida. And maybe we'll circle back to that as well. He said, quote, "We can't just choose to learn what we want to know. We have to learn what we should know. At a time when there are those who seek to ban books, bury history, we're making it clear, crystal clear," unquote. It goes on to talk about how, this article goes on to talk about how Till's murder galvanized the civil rights movement. Again, I'm going to skip down because I don't want to run out of time. The monument will preserve areas critical to telling the story of Till's life and death. Actually, let's hit this part, though. This is important. One of the sites preserved by the new monument is called Grable Landing in Mississippi. The location where Till's body, weighed down by a cotton gin fan attached to his neck, was discovered in the Tallahatchie River. In 2008, the community installed a memorial sign at the site, but over the years, the sign was routinely stolen, vandalized, or shot. A bulletproof addition was erected in 2019. The second monument site is Robert's Temple Church of God in Christ in Chicago, where Till's funeral service was held. Mamie Till Mobley, after viewing her son's body, said at the time, quote, "Let the people see what they did to my boy," unquote. She insisted on holding an open casket funeral for her son, defying Mississippi authorities who wanted Till to be buried quickly in Mississippi. The church was filled to capacity, with thousands standing outside listening to the service over loudspeakers. More than 100,000 mourners attended the visitation and funeral. The third monument location is the Tallahatchie County 2nd District Courthouse, also in Mississippi, where Till's killers were tried and wrongly acquitted by an all-white jury. In October 2007, Till's family visited the courthouse to receive an apology from the town's leaders. that kind of gives you, so that's some of the history. Obviously, there's a lot more we could get into there. Eric Street says, Faulkner, if you said it the wrong way, you'd have to hit the dump button. Yes, that's why, Eric, I do make sure to pronounce the L. Even sometimes I'll even pronounce the L in words that other people don't. Like, what was it? Was it Suffolk County that was in the news? And people pronounce it a slightly different way, but I insist on putting the L in there just so I don't slip and get myself into trouble. I mean, I'm not crazy about it. Like some people put L's in words that don't even have them. I've noticed this a lot in broadcasting. A lot of people put an L in the word both and pronounce it both, and that I don't understand. Okay, I want to read, though, again, what Harris Faulkner has to say, and I have a comment about it. So here's what she said. And again, I was pleasantly surprised. I expected her to just find a way to dump on Biden because it is Fox News. But here's what she said. Let me just read the comment. We heard her speaking, but let me read it. The President of the United States there signing a proclamation designating 3 sites across Illinois and Mississippi in an effort to protect places that tell Emmett Till's story, as well as reflect on the activism of his mother, Mamie Till Mobley. Both of them instrumental in keeping this story of Till's murder alive. His mom, and now the President of the United States. So she's saying this as, in the video, she says that because, his mother is there, of course, and then Biden appears and he spoke. And again, I think he's very good in those moments. And Kamala Harris spoke as well, of course. So here's what else Harris has said. So we watched this going on, and I would say this, and the president did acknowledge it somewhat, but often Democrats don't. We have come through the fire in this nation. We've come through prosperity, wars, and more, and we've done it together. We share this history together. So whenever somebody says we can't get to the next place, remember, days like this, what's possible in this country. We are the greatest nation on this planet. We can do amazing things, and we can do them together. God bless America. But we have a call. Let me grab this. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's this?
It's Ridley. You'd asked me to call in this hour.
I did. Yes. Dave, okay, so to the listeners, we will circle back to this later, I promise. But Dave, I did ask you to call back. We don't have a ton of time because we have a musical guest coming up, but I want to ask you, and I also do want to hear about what you were calling about yesterday, but we never got to it. But let me ask you this first. Let me get this part out of the way. So we were talking recently, you had called about Free Talk Live and the changes there. And that's, for those who don't know, Free Talk Live is a big deal. It's a nationally syndicated show. It's on more than 100 stations, and they're not ending completely, right? But they're doing a massive scale down.
Yes, it's just a weekend show now, plus, spontaneous shows, which, I mean, when talk radio, you need a schedule, right?
Right.
I don't know how much it counts when you have a spontaneous show. But I do believe that their spontaneous shows are airing on the 80 radio stations, or I guess it's like 100, I think it's about 150, maybe closer to 150 radio stations that they're still on. And then when they're not airing, they're running substitute content, so they're running a repeat of the morning's broadcast from Ernie Hancock, who does a thing called Declare Your Independence. But that's just a national show that has no focus on New Hampshire and really actually no focus on easy solutions. Like, again, the Free Talk Live thing, what made them special is that they had a simple solution they've been focusing on for 20 years, and that was simply, if you like freedom, move to New Hampshire, right? And that's been a spectacular success. But, they have 200,000 listeners per night, roughly, or at least they used to. It's probably down to 150 now, 150,000. And then that was a useful tool for me. I saw it as a useful tool to get the word out about any sort of government abuse in New Hampshire. And I'm sure it had a deterrent effect on the government, and we're gradually losing that.
But we should clarify too, for people who aren't familiar with the show. That, I mean, they didn't just do that. I mean, they talked to people from all over the country. They're, nationally syndicated, of course, and they talked to people from all over the country about all kinds of issues. And of course, from Free Talk Live does that from a libertarian perspective. And I always say, it's interesting, and it really does change the landscape of political talk radio, because in political talk, as you know, it's very heavily dominated on terrestrial radio, especially on AM, by conservatives. And then you've got a handful of liberal political talk radio. But I can't think of another really sort of purely libertarian political talk show that's anywhere near as big as Free Talk Live. So that really leaves a hole in that market, I think.
Yeah, and the other thing is they would let anyone call in. So there was a communist that called 5 nights a week, right? And she talked about how we needed more regulations on things. And I think she said she was a communist. And I don't think they ever failed to take her calls. I mean, unless they were just backed up with a bunch of other calls or something like that. And she was not only, completely different from them ideologically, she was super boring and super useless in terms of, she just never had any interesting information to share, right? And but they held true to their promise that they will let you on the air, no matter what you think, no matter what you want to talk about. It was very democratic in that sense, or very bottom up.
Well, I have to tell you, Dave, I mean, I think that they have influenced to some extent, when I think of people who've influenced me in my approach to radio, they've had an influence on me, because that is kind of how I approach this as far as taking calls. I take calls from all kinds of people with all kinds of viewpoints, and I try to keep it very open as well. And I don't, I don't have their audience, so I take a lot fewer calls, obviously. But I try to apply that same sort of mindset and talk to people from all kinds of perspectives and different ideologies, and really have an open-ended discussion and try to be open-minded and engage. With some limits. Obviously, there are some things I won't tolerate either, because they would get me in trouble, because I'm on a terrestrial radio station and there's rules, or just things that are so offensive to me that I don't want to entertain them. Like if a Holocaust denier were to call or something, I would immediately hang up, just as a random example. But no, I've always respected that about Free Talk Live, that sort of open-ended, open-minded approach. And as far as them doing sort of spontaneous shows, I don't see how that works with the shows with the stations that they're syndicated to. But there are a lot of very successful streamers online who have such large followings that they are able to do that, to just kind of go live whenever they want to on YouTube or on Twitch, and people get that notification and they join in, and that may be a very successful. That may turn out to be a very successful, especially given their following, model for them to go with. So, might not be a bad move.
Yeah, but I think ultimately the attack on the Free Talk Live studios, where they sent the drone through the window 2 years ago and put they had 3 Bearcats and a SWAT team raid and all that stuff. That ultimately, it's led to a prosecution and everything, and that ultimately has just exhausted Ian Freeman, who founded the show, and it is taxed other people who are supporting the show as well. And I think he admitted that was part of what got to him and resulted in this drawdown. And so the blame lies with the federal government largely. They've shut down, or at least reduced, yet another independent outlet, just like CIA Director William Colby once said, there is no one in the media in the United States of any importance who is not controlled by the CIA. And again, that's what the CIA Director said. So
sure.
I'm not. This is not a conspiracy theory.
Well, I don't want to get into all that right now. I would like to have that conversation at some point in the future, though, because I do think it would be fascinating. But we are somewhat pressed for time, so I don't want to take that side street right now. But but they are going to continue to be on weekends.
Yes, for now.
Interesting. Okay. For those who don't know, Free Talk Live, and actually they're the only show I can think of offhand like this. Oh, maybe they're not the only one, but they're on 7 nights a week, 7 to 10, correct? Eastern?
Correct.
Yeah. So I guess it makes sense. They just probably told all of their stations that they syndicate to that they're going to be strictly weekends. Oh, I remember the other question. Is Mark Edge still around, or is he long gone?
Yes, but he's his usual flighty self. He's always we need to move to New Hampshire, need to move people to New Hampshire. Here I am in New Hampshire. I'm building a house, got tired of that, going to get rid of that house, and we actually all need to move to the Marianas Islands. Here I am in the Marianas Islands, and we all, wait a minute, no, I changed my mind. Actually, we need to all move to Honduras. Here we are in Honduras. We're building a road, and at least he's doing something, but you never know what he's going to come up with next.
Okay, gotcha. But is he still involved in the show?
Yes, and
he
he's still involved in New Hampshire. He does visit. I think he's a Marianas resident now, but he sort of lives in Honduras, and sometimes he's in Florida. He's impossible to keep. It's all impossible to keep up with or follow around because he's just bouncing off the wall constantly.
Gotcha. Dave, if you can, in just a few minutes, keep it relatively terse, but what was the other thing that you were calling about? You said you had some New Hampshire news?
It was related, and that is that another victim of that raid, the March 2021 raid, started her sentence. I guess it was a month ago, but it's taken me a long time to get on the air and talk about it.
Yeah.
I think she started her sentence a month ago. She's a New Hampshire resident and is serving it in Massachusetts. So the feds were pretty good about not sending her far away, and they gave her an 18-month sentence as part of a plea agreement. Her name is Aria DeMezzo. You can follow her and send her mail by going to ariademezzo.com. It's spelled DIMEZZO. DIMEZZO. Aria DeMezzo.
Okay. I know a little bit about her. So she's 18 months, and is she the first one to be sentenced from that?
She's the first one to start serving a term.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
These were obviously, she is a talk show host, but they came after them for cryptocurrency related charges. They were selling a lot of cryptocurrency. Their lawyers said they were complying with the law, but of course the government doesn't. They won't answer the question. If you ask the government, "Am I compliant?" they'll say, "We're not allowed to answer that question." And they answer it by sending a SWAT team eventually if they don't like you.
Interesting. Do you know, has anyone else been sentenced who hasn't started serving yet?
I think Rich Paul's been sentenced, but I don't know. I think he might have been time served plus felony charges that he would agree to have hanging over him. He might be on probation now or something. That's my recollection.
That's a name I haven't heard in a while. Huh. Interesting. Rich Paul. Yeah. I've met him, but, okay. Yeah. Just curious. All right, Dave. Well, we are up against the clock. We have a musical guest who's going to be, Skyping in shortly, but I do appreciate your calling. And do you want to give anything a plug, before you go, NH Exit or Ridley Report or anything at all?
Yes. The solution to these federal raids is to leave the union. NHExit.us.
NHExit.us. Okay. Dave Ridley, thank you so much. I appreciate the call.
You're welcome.
Okay. Bye-bye. All right. That was Dave Ridley of the Ridley Report. And yes, I did ask him to call back today, and he did. So that's good. Just very quickly about Harris Faulkner's comments. Two things can be true at once. And I think when we talk about this stuff, the swipe that she took at the Democrats, the Democrats don't talk about this. In other words, what she's saying is about how far we've come in this country. She's saying she's coming at it from the perspective, which would be sort of the conservative Fox News perspective, I suppose, that, Democrats just talk about how, we're so racist, and they don't acknowledge the progress that we've made. And of course, Democrats would look at someone like who's saying something like what she's saying, and then from the opposite direction, they would say, no, they don't. They just want to act like there is no racism anymore, like it's problem solved. We came, in other words, to use Harris Faulkner's own words, we came through the fire, and so now everything's good, and there is no racism, and we're just this we've dealt with everything and it's all set. And the reality is, again, two things can be true at once. I think, we live in this hyper-polarized world where you have to be all the way on one side or all the way on the other of every single issue. I think both perspectives have a lot of truth in them. I think that the perspective that we have come a long way is absolutely correct. But I also think the perspective that we have a lot of work yet to do is also correct. And I don't know, but it's almost like if you acknowledge either of those points of view as having some validity, you'll have somebody telling you that, if you acknowledge that we've come a long way, then you'll have somebody telling you, what do you mean we've come a long way? Everything's still so racist. And if you say, if you acknowledge that, yes, there is still racism in this country, and we still have a lot that we have to deal with, you'll have somebody say to you, what do you mean? So you don't think we've made any progress at all? No, I'm not saying that at all. Both things are true. We have made tremendous progress in this country. We've come a long way from slavery, obviously. We've come a long way from segregated water fountains and school segregation and all of it. We've come a hell of a long way. And we still have a lot of work to do because there is still racism in this country and there is still a lot of ignorance. And that's why it's so important, by the way, to teach it and to confront it, because that's how we ultimately get better, is by acknowledging the mistakes that we've made, not trying to sweep them under the rug because we don't want to make anybody feel badly. You can actually, I believe this, you can teach kids about some of the horrors of our history and have some faith that they can learn about that with the understanding that part of how we get better, part of how we improve is by honestly confronting the past, not trying to, do like they're trying to do in Florida, whitewash it. You can be honest about it, but that doesn't mean that, see, the way I look at it is, honestly, and probably this wasn't the best moment in the show to be talking about this because I have a lot to say about it and we're running short on time. I need to get to a break, but I think that you should be able to acknowledge both, because acknowledging how far we've come should serve as evidence and proof that we can continue to work on these issues and go forward as we continue to confront racism in this country. And I will leave it at that for now. We got to take a quick break. We're going to show some love to our amazing sponsors, and then I'm going to play a track from Grandma Mousey when we come back from the break called Freaky Face. This is another great song from them. Then by the time the song is over, we'll have them on Skype with us. They are from Austin, Texas. Really looking forward to talking with them. And then at the end of our conversation, we will have the world radio premiere of their brand new single, Deep Diver. So there is a lot more to come today on Matt Connarton Unleashed. Don't go anywhere. And actually, let me do this. Sorry, everybody. Sorry for the awkward pause here. I got a little bit distracted, and all right, here we go. Plenty more to come. Don't go away. Come on down to the Hop Knot at 1000 Elm Street, Manchester's premier craft beer and gourmet pretzel bar. Tell us more, Trudy.
We make our dough fresh every day. We make a variety of styles of pretzels and serve craft beer, cocktails, and a few bottles of wine. We do the traditional pretzel, and we have multiple flavors for that. We also do stuffed pretzels, pretzel sandwiches, free dessert pretzels, and pretzel knots.
The Hop Knot in the Brady Sullivan Plaza at 1000 Elm Street.
Bring your kitchen to life with Queen City Cabinetry, located at 87 Elm Street in the historic Sunbeam Mall in Manchester. Open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. and Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. They can be reached at 603-222-2007 or on the web at queencitycabinetrynh.com. Come see the possibilities. Queen City Cabinetry, another proud sponsor of WMNH.
Clemento's Pizzeria, family friendly, awesome for a date night. Clemento's Pizzeria. For delivery, call 603-782-8450. Clemento's Pizzeria. 1875 South Willow Street in Manchester, New Hampshire. Best cocktails around. Come in as friends and leave as family.
This hour on WMNH is sponsored by CGI Business Solutions, located at 5 Dartmouth Drive in Auburn. They serve all your business needs, including employee benefits planning, corporate design and business administration, investments and wealth management, and customized business insurance solutions. Their phone number is 866-841-4600 or on the web at cgibusinesssolutions.com.
WMNH, rip the knob off.
That is really good. That is Freaky Face. The band is Grandma Mousey. And we have with us via Skype all the way from Austin, Texas. I think we have Josh Garcia on there. Hello, are you there, sir?
Yeah, how's it going, Matt?
Very well, very well. Is anyone else with you from the band, or is it just you?
Just me today.
Okay, very good. Hey, thank you so much for joining us. I love your sound, and part of what I like about it is, you can really hear the mix of influences. I should tell you, because I don't know if you heard it, but I opened the show today with one of your songs, Barrel of a Wave. I chose that one to open because it's kind of my personal favorite of your songs that I listen to. And I love the way that one, the verses, it's kind of got one kind of vibe, it's sort of this laid back thing. And then it gets to that chorus, and the chorus is probably the heaviest of any of your songs that I listen to. It's kind of a, sort of this metal chorus, and it's really, but there's nothing jarring about it. It just flows perfectly. And it's just so good. But definitely a lot of mix of influences with your songs. And I really like it.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we love to pull influences from different places and not really limit ourselves to just one thing. So we have a lot of fun doing it.
Now, what do you do in the band? Yeah, obviously you sing.
Yeah, I sing, and I also play drums.
Yes, I noticed that in a video that I watched, and it's always surprising because you just don't see a lot of singing drummers.
You don't. And there's probably a few reasons for that. But yeah, I've kind of wound up in that situation because it was easier to do that than to go out and try and find a drummer.
Interesting. Yeah, drummers are hard to find. My theory on that has always been that, when kids are growing up and kind of learning to play instruments and getting into whatever it is that they're going to play, one instrument that is probably the most discouraged by parents for their kids to learn is drums, because, when you've got the whole drum set and it's loud and, it's not like learning other instruments where you can really kind of control the volume. That's always been my theory. Drummers do seem to be the hardest to find.
For sure.
What you said you've got some theories about why there aren't many singing drummers. I'm curious what your perspective is on that.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, it's a loud instrument.
Yeah.
So if you were going to practice singing, it'd probably be easier to do it with a guitar, a piano, something else than a drum set. So that'd probably be the first reason.
Yeah.
Second reason, I think, is just as far as playing the drums, it's really physical, you know? So you're having to move. I know at our shows, I'm like constantly gasping for breath and sweating. And, you're normally working pretty hard if you're just playing drums.
Mm-hmm.
So to try to like hold a note, to try to be able to hear yourself, it kind of gets impractical. So I feel like I've only seen like a handful of people over the years really doing it. But the person who I think inspired me a lot recently was Anderson .Paak, sing his Tiny Desk concert. He just made it look really cool.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah, but I agree with your theory. I've always imagined that it's probably because as you know, because you do it with drums, you're using all four of your limbs. So it's much more physically demanding than really any other instrument that I can think of, actually. And so it's such an important part of singing is being able to breathe correctly. So you're already working out, you're getting a workout, really a full body workout playing the drums, and you've got to breathe correctly to sing. So I can see where that would be pretty challenging. Have you been both the singer and the drummer in previous bands prior to this band?
I have, but normally I would just play drums, or if I was singing, I would like play guitar or something like that.
Yeah.
It's so dumb. It's so at the end of every show, I'm like, why am I doing this? But I think some people think it's also kind of like, it's kind of an entertaining gimmick or something. It's like, oh yeah, singing drummer. You don't see that too often. So
right, that's true. So now, tell me about your approach to these songs, because, like I said, it is a mix of influences. Is it because you have a lot of different influences that you like? Is it more of a band thing where everybody kind of brings in their own sort of influences? Because, like I said, you just, in a lot of these songs, you hear a lot of different things. You know, you hear some jazz, you hear some jam band, you even hear a little bit of metal, like in Barrel of a Wave. You know, you hear a little bit of almost like surf punk. I mean, how does that happen where you have such an eclectic sound, and yet somehow it just works? It just all fits together.
Yeah, I mean that's a great question. I think the answer to both of those is yes. That, you know, I like a lot of different kinds of music, and then everyone in the band kind of just comes from different backgrounds with everything that you mentioned, everything from metal to jazz to flamenco and bossa nova. And so I think that when we're coming up with music, we usually pick, you know, kind of a starting point and then kind of explore and see what happens. But I mean, for me personally, I think we're taking a lot of nods from bands who have taken a similar approach. I mean, you can look all the way back to the Beatles, Miles Davis, even more current acts, where they always sound like themselves, but they're never afraid to dip into a new style and kind of jump off a cliff and see where it takes them. Right.
Now, who actually writes I assume you write the lyrics?
Yeah. I write the lyrics, and then the song, like the music, the instrumentation, we've taken a lot of different approaches. There have been some that we've written all together. There have been some where I kind of come up with a blueprint, or somebody else comes in with a blueprint, and then we kind of work it out. But I mean, it's definitely the voices of everybody in the band working on it together to give it that sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I noticed too online there's pictures of the band where it looks like you're a three-piece, and then there's other pictures where it looks like there's four of you. Did it used to be a trio and then expanded, or tell me?
Yeah. So we've gone through a few different lineup changes. It's always been the three of us, with, you know, myself singing, drumming, and then we have Corey Green, who's just a wizard on guitar, and then Alex Diesbach, who brings you all those wonderful bass lines. But yeah, we've had some different synth players. We had a trumpet player at one point. So we've kind of had a revolving cast of people who will come in and add those extra layers of sometimes backing vocals, synths, keyboards, other things like that. So yeah, it's kind of always in a state of flux, but at the core, we always have the three of us, if nothing else.
Gotcha. So the songs, so I assume, does that mean that there's even now, there's some shows where you might have an additional person there who's not necessarily there for every show, and that kind of changes the texture of the songs live?
Yeah, we've definitely tried that before. It kind of just depends on the person and the situation, you know. Yeah, I think that's a good way to kind of see if somebody's going to be a good fit to maybe play long term too. Is you can go and you can jam in somebody's house or at a rehearsal space or something like that, but it's a whole different element to bring it into a live show. So we always try to be open with that, and then, you know, different things can come out of the music too, because some of these songs we've maybe played them like, you know, 800 times, and I'm like, okay, man, this one's getting a little stale. Let's try something out.
Yeah. Do any of these songs sort of allow for you to do longer versions live if you feel like kind of jamming? Because it seems like, I mean, you don't seem to be, you know, you're not a jam band. Although I hear some of that influence in there, but are there any of these songs that you do live where sometimes maybe they are extended versions sort of spontaneously?
Yeah. Sometimes that happens, and sometimes it's intentionally, where, you know, we're just, I think, in the moment, and we're going to extend a guitar solo or maybe jam an outro out a little bit more. And then other times, I think we just kind of forget to count, And we just, I look over and somebody's staring at me like, "Are you ready to change?" I'm like, "Oh yeah." So yeah, it goes both ways.
Yeah, but that does. I'm sure that keeps it fun and interesting. And you're in a great city, obviously, for music. Austin, Texas is just. Have you been there a long time, or maybe you're from there originally? I don't know.
I'm not. I'm from closer to Dallas. I'm from Arlington, but I've lived here about 5.5 years.
Okay.
And yeah, you're right. I mean, it's just like I'll be like, "Oh, I think I've heard all the really cool, amazing bands in town," and then I'll like, go down the street and I'll be like, "Who is this?" And, "Oh, it's some band they've been here for 3 or 4 years," and I just it's like impossible to keep track of all the really talented people that are here in town.
Oh, no doubt. Is it, are you able to play out, like, do you play out a lot? Do you play out every week or?
So personally, I play in a few different bands, so I do end up usually playing at least a couple times a week. But for us, I feel like in Grandma Mousey, we'll usually kind of go through these kind of ebbs and flows where we might play several times within a month, and then we might kind of take a month off and then go write some new music or just take a break or something like that. So yeah, it kind of just changes with the seasons.
Yeah, because again, in Austin, Texas, I'd imagine that there's a lot of options and opportunities to play out. But then again, it's probably kind of crowded too, right? Because there's so much music there.
It is, and right now it is hot.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
We're like, let's like take this month off. People also had some life stuff going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's like I feel like people are moving here all the time, and prices are going up, and sometimes that has an effect on the venues too. If they're able to keep their doors open, or they might switch names if they get a new owner, or change locations. So keeping a pulse on that is like kind of its own monster too.
Oh, I'd imagine. How hot has it been there recently?
Pretty consistently in the triple digits.
Wow.
Yeah, for a while now. So everybody's just like, doing all their good luck omens over their ACs. To keep it going.
No doubt. So where does the name Grandma Mousey come from?
Yeah, so that is actually kind of a funny story. My girlfriend used to teach at like a pre-K school, and some of the kids there had just come up with this funny game that she told me about, where they would get in a circle and they'd close their eyes, and there was this little toy called Grandma Mousey that one of them had named. And so different kids would like pick up the toy and then try to disguise their voice while the other kids had their eyes closed and be like, "Grandma Mousey." And then the kids would try to guess who said it.
Yeah.
And so I just thought that was really funny. And I was also kind of tired of like just all the really cool sounding band names. I was like, let's just pick something wacky, because I feel like our music's going to be kind of wacky.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just kind of picked that one and ran with it.
Yeah, cool. I mean, so much of it, I feel, in terms of picking a band name, is you always want to try to pick something that you really don't think anybody else is going to already have. And that can be a challenge. That can be a challenge because, you so often you might pick a name and then it turns out, and you might even research it and you don't see anybody else online who already has that name that you think is so cool. And then somebody pops up and says, "No, we actually have been using that name." So I think it's good to to pick something kind of wacky that you're pretty sure nobody else is going to have. So so that's good. And now today, so we're doing the world radio premiere of this track, Deep Diver. What can you tell us about this song? I obviously already listened to it. I think it's great, but what can you tell us about it?
So this is a song. The music was pretty much all thought up by Corey Green, our guitarist. And then I took some lyrical inspiration from when I was living in South Korea. And they have these women divers that are from an island called Jeju. And there's a culture there where they put on wetsuits and are able to hold their breath for a really long time because it's kind of a tradition that's been passed down. and they dive into the ocean and they come up similar to like a fisherman with like different lobsters or just different things from the ocean that they can sell, that they can give to their families to eat. And so I kind of learned about these women. They're called Hanyo. And I was just like, that's just so badass. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of where the story behind the lyrics comes from.
Oh, that's fascinating. Wow. Yeah, that gives it a whole new meaning knowing the backstory. Wow. Yeah, we'll play that in a moment. But so I do have to ask though, a little bit of a side street, but South Korea. Why were you living there? Was it for school or what? How'd that happen?
I was actually I was actually done with school at the time, and I had always kind of wanted to go off and kind of travel and explore and go different places. And I had seen from some mutual friends that you can go over to some of these Asian countries, South Korea, China, Vietnam, Thailand, other places. And if you're a native English speaker and you hold any kind of bachelor degree, you can teach at the schools. And so they give you like accommodations and they give you a salary and they'll sign you on to like a year contract or whatever it is. So I was in South Korea for a year.
Wow. I mean, how was the experience overall? Was it positive? It sounds like it was.
Yeah, it was incredible. I mean, it's funny. It's a country that is about the size of Louisiana, and I was kind of down at a southern city called Gwangju, but really, really nice people. Just so many positive things about the culture there, and I met a lot of other musicians. And
oh wow,
it was great food. It was a good time.
Did you play in a band while you were there?
I actually did form a little band for a few months while I was there.
Wow.
And so yeah, we kind of had some original jams, and then we played a bunch of covers and stuff too, and normally just kind of play at like a local pub in town. So yeah, wherever I go, gotta keep it alive.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. Well, what should people know? And again, we are going to play the single Deep Diver in just a moment, the world radio premiere. And by the way, so when does this come out officially?
So this will hit all the streaming platforms on August 4th.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is this part of an EP or a full album?
Yeah, we're going to release a 4-song EP sometime probably in the fall. So this is one of the singles from it, and we have a couple more songs that'll be on there too.
Okay. Hey, where do you record, by the way? Because everything sounds so good. And there's so many,
nice.
Yeah, and there's so many options. We live in an era where there's so many options for recording. I mean, do you do it yourself, or do you go to a studio, or how do you record?
Yeah, we go to a studio. We go to 5th Street Studios here in Austin, and for the last few years we've been working with this incredibly talented guy named Nick Joswick, who does the tracking and the mixing, and he's done the mastering on some of our songs as well too. But yeah, the more we work with him, he's just great at coming up with ideas, and whatever we throw his way, he's like, okay, I've got something for you.
It sounds like a scenario where you have someone who maybe they're an engineer, but they sort of become like a de facto producer.
Yeah, I mean, he's just really open and very comfortable, and it's kind of interesting, with people that you work with in the studio. It's like you have some where they have a specific style of engineering and production, and you're going to hear that recording, and that's going to sound like that person's, their fingerprints are all over it. Okay, that sounds like so-and-so's kind of record, Butch Vig or somebody like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got other people where it's a little bit more kind of hands-off and kind of organic, and kind of like, okay, we're just going to kind of let this breathe and percolate, and just let the song kind of do it that its thing. And Nick is that latter kind where, it's very open and very comfortable. So it's always great working with him.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. I was listening to it in the car, and because that's to me, that's the test. How does it sound in the car?
Oh yeah. Same.
Yeah, totally. Okay, what should before we get to that too? We'll finish up with you, Josh, and I appreciate you joining us today. What should people know in terms of Grandma Mousey? You've got a great website, and you're on all the social media. But anything specific you want people to know about how to find you online so they can keep up with everything that you're doing and get your new music as it comes out and all that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're on all the social media platforms. I think Instagram is probably what we keep up with the most. But you can also go to our website, grandmamousey.com. And yeah, we'll have some more music coming out this year. We just put out a music video a few weeks ago. And then some more shows coming up around Texas if you're ever down here in the heat.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Josh Garcia, thank you so much, my friend. We're going to let you go, and we're going to hit this track, the world radio premiere of Deep Diver from Grandma Mousey. But thank you so much for joining us today. And when you've got, it sounds like you've got new music coming soon, so we will have to have you back soon because I'm a big fan of what you're doing. So great stuff.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
All right, you got it, man. Take care and try to stay cool. I know it's not easy when it's triple digits, but
yeah.
But be careful
Thanks
out there.
so much, man.
All right, man. You got it. Take care. Bye. All right, wonderful. That was Josh Garcia from the band Grandma Mousey, and here it is. Without further ado, and now that I know the backstory, I'm gonna be listening to the lyrics of this song with a new set of ears, so to speak. We're gonna do the world radio premiere of the track Deep Diver from Grandma Mousey, and then we will return with the balance of our program. So we do have plenty more to come, but check this out. This is really great stuff. Deep Diver from the band Grandma Mousey from Austin, Texas.
Down, everybody's going down. Deep into the dive, the hunter makes a strike. Down, everybody's going down.
on down to the Hop Knot at 1000 Elm Street, Manchester's premier craft beer and gourmet pretzel bar. Tell us more, Trudy.
We make our dough fresh every day. We make a variety of styles of pretzels and serve craft beer, cocktails, and a few bottles of wine. We do the traditional pretzel, and we have multiple flavors for that. We also do stuffed pretzels, pretzel sandwiches, free dessert pretzels, and pretzel knots.
The Hop Knot in the Brady Sullivan Plaza at 1000 Elm Street.
Bring your kitchen to life with Queen City Cabinetry, located at 87 Elm Street in the historic Sunbeam Mall in Manchester. Open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. and Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. They can be reached at 603-222-2007 or on the web at queencitycabinetrynh.com. Come see the possibilities. Queen City Cabinetry, another proud sponsor of WMNH.
Clemento's Pizzeria, family friendly, awesome for a date night. Clemento's Pizzeria. For delivery, call 603-782-8450. Clemento's Pizzeria, the best pizza in town. 1875 South Willow Street in Manchester, New Hampshire. Best cocktails around. Come in as friends and leave as family.
This hour on WMNH is sponsored by CGI Business Solutions, located at 5 Dartmouth Drive in Auburn. They serve all your business needs, including employee benefits planning, corporate design and business administration, investments and wealth management, and customized business insurance solutions. Their phone number is 866-841-4600 or on the web at cgibusinesssolutions.com.
WMNH, rip the knob off.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, as we cruise into our final segment today of Matt Connarton Unleashed. And John Hopwood just sent me John Hopwood just sent me a picture. If you were listening earlier, he called the show. He was about to go in for an MRI. He sent me a picture of the MRI, the sign on the door, and then he sent me this article from the Washington Post. Funnel clouds seen spinning over U.S. Capitol building in Washington, and he seems to think that might be the satanic portal that we occasionally speak about. If you don't know what I'm referring to, you might be new to the show. But anyway, welcome back, everybody. It is our final segment today of Matt Connarton Unleashed, as we are live from the studios of WMNH 95.3 FM in glorious downtown Manchester, New Hampshire. Also on Comcast 97 if you're in Manchester, and hello to all of our online listeners across the nation and around the globe. You can go to my website, mattconnerton.com, for all of your live streaming options, social media links, contact info, show archives, etc., etc. Today is a Tuesday, July 25, 2023. And thank you again so much to Josh Garcia for joining us today on the show. I really enjoyed talking with him. I'm a big fan. I became an instant fan of this band, Grandma Mousey, from Austin, Texas. And we just did the world radio premiere of the brand new single. It won't be out on streaming platforms until August 4th, I believe he said was the date. So we got a sneak peek, and the first time ever heard on the radio right here on Matt Connarton Unleashed here at WMNH. Deep Diver, the brand new single from Grandma Mousey. And we will close the show today with another one of their songs as well. We've been playing some of their other music too. Really great band. I love them, and really nice talking with Josh Garcia from the band Grandma Mousey. So I suggest you check them out online. If you would like to join us today on the program, during our final segment today, we have a little bit of time left. The studio line is open, 603-250-6007, 603-250-6007. You can also text me at 617-917-4476. I'm on social media at Matt Connarton. You can email me, matt@mattconnerton.com. And of course, you can interact and opine in the Facebook live chat. But the best thing to do so that we can hear and enjoy your dulcet tones is to give us a call at 603-250-6007. By the way, our friend Miriam Banish has joined us in the Facebook live chat and says, howdy. Hello, Miriam. Isaac Banks seemed to be enjoying the Grandma Mousey, said, awesome song, #Matt. Let's see. Chris from the band Edgewise, speaking of great music, joins us in the Facebook live chat. Hello, Chris. I want to, let's see. We've got speaking of the chat room. Oh, so I hear a siren outside, which happens once every show. But that's an unusual sounding siren. That was weird. Not the typical siren I'm used to hearing. This is just, this is completely out of left field, but it was mentioned in the Facebook live chat. And the reason it was mentioned is because when John Hopwood called us earlier during the first hour, he mentioned somehow the subject of Adam Carolla had come up. And I was talking about how, because the subject of Greg Gutfeld from Fox News had come up. And I was talking about how, to me, Greg Gutfeld is a poor man's Adam Carolla. He wants to be Adam Carolla, but knows that he never will be. In terms of, he probably has a bigger bank account because he's on Fox, but he'll never be, he'll never have Melanie says, weird sounding siren. I bet the purge has officially begun. I didn't know that was today. That's extremely bad news. Anyway, John Hopwood mentioned Adam Carolla. Isn't that also the name of a serial killer? Now I Googled it and I could not find anything, about a serial killer named Adam Carolla, and the actual media personality Adam Carolla, as far as I'm aware, has never committed murder. But this came up in the chat. Somebody mentioned Garth Brooks and shared a link. I forget who shared this, so forgive me. And so it made me very curious. This is from PennLive.com. Garth Brooks keeps getting accused of being a serial killer on social media. Here's why. And by the way, this article just went up today, so apparently this is recent. I didn't pre-read this. I have no idea what's going on here. But it says here, just when you thought social media couldn't get any dumber, Twitter is now X, and people won't stop claiming that Garth Brooks is a serial killer over on the dumpster fire that is Elon Musk's platform. Yep, you read that right. The country music superstar is being called a serial killer over there. It's relentless and is clearly not based on anything that is factual. Brooks has found himself in the middle of a controversy lately for daring to suggest he might serve Bud Light in his new Nashville bar and having the gall to ask his fans to support refugees in the Ukraine. But this is clearly more serious, and it apparently predates all of that. So, how did we get here with Brooks's mentions being flooded by the unfounded claims? Well, according to multiple reports, it all began with comedian Tom Segura and Brooks's 2018 concert tour announcement. At the end of the video, Brooks says, quote, "Let's get physical playing music," unquote, with a smile. Segura then reportedly joked that Brooks looked like he has killed multiple people before. Apparently the smile was creepy. Well, Segura is a comedian, so he's going to make humor out of, whatever. But that's funny. So let me read that sentence again. Segura then reportedly joked that Brooks looked like he has killed multiple people before. It has grown legs, and I don't know what that says about me, that sentence is so hilarious to me. Probably nothing positive. But for some reason, I can't read it without laughing. Let me try one more time. Let me see if I can read the sentence without laughing. Segura then reportedly joked that Brooks, see, I can't do it, that Brooks looked like he has killed multiple people before. It has grown legs and taken off from there with a conspiracy that his tour dates coincide with multiple missing people reports even being added to the story. That has led fans of Segura to show up in Brooks's post to ask, "Where are the bodies, Garth?" Many people, it seems, are in on the joke. But there are other people who genuinely and unbelievably seem to believe there are facts behind this, and you will easily find people on the platform claiming Brooks is a serial killer. Again, there are no facts, zero, that suggests Brooks has killed anyone. Segura recently told comedian Theo Vaughn on his podcast that Brooks has blocked him on Instagram over all of this. It was probably overdue considering the beating the guy is taking over on social media around this one. Again, there are no facts, zero, none, nada, that suggest Brooks is a serial killer. By the way, after the show, now look, I generally don't believe in conspiracy theories. Not that I think they're all nonsense, but most of them are frankly. But I am going to, this is my commitment to all of you in the audience. I'm going to keep an open mind about this one. As soon as I get off the air, I'm going to find the video that Tom Segura joked about, and I will watch it and make my own assessment and my own analysis of the smile that Garth Brooks displays in the video. And so I can come to my own conclusion. I'm going to, as a phrase that you often hear in modern parlance, especially around conspiracy theories, I'm going to do my own research. And I will determine, and I will share my findings on tomorrow's program. So a little bit of a cliffhanger for you. Tomorrow on the show, it'll be the first thing, actually. It'll be the first subject on tomorrow's show. I will give you my own investigative findings and assessment and analysis. Do I think, based on that video and the smile of Garth Brooks, do I think that Garth Brooks is a serial killer? And we can even have a discussion about it. You know, the phone line will be open. I'm skeptical, but I'm open-minded. I may watch that video and conclude, yes, clearly he has killed people. And Tom Segura just figured it out before the rest of us. But that is the problem with conspiracy theories, right? Is that, see, I have a long-standing theory that you could come up with the craziest, most insane thing and put it out there. Maybe make a video of it and put it on YouTube. Just the craziest idea. And there are people who will believe it. It's like the, actually, you know someone who did that for real, and it's pretty funny. You may have heard, or you might be familiar with the birds aren't real conspiracy. There's even a website. I think it's just birdsaren'treal.com. And it's the idea that there are no birds. All these birds that you see flying around are just mechanical devices created by the government. They replaced all the birds with mechanized birds that are actually spying on us or doing whatever they do. And the guy who started it, he started it as a joke, but he actually goes on shows. In fact, he went on the Majority Report with Sam Cedar, which is a podcast I occasionally will tune into. In character, he went on In Character, and Sam doesn't break character either and interviews the guy. You know, everyone's in on the joke, but Sam interviews the guy as though he really believes this, and it's pretty funny. So he goes, it's all a gag, but if you're not familiar, check it out. It's pretty funny. But he wanted to, the guy who's a young guy too, I think he's in his early 20s. He started the whole thing because he just wanted to see, would people believe it? You know, and sure enough, the conspiracy caught on. There are other people who believe this, even though if you dig a little deeper, you'll realize the guy who started the whole thing started it as a goof. But of course, there are people who believe that, yes, the birds are not real because some people will believe anything. And that is the danger of conspiracy theories. But I don't know. This Garth Brooks thing has me wondering. I am very, very curious. Also, speaking of social media, yes, Twitter apparently now is X. I signed into Twitter yesterday, and an X appeared on my browser screen, and I said, what is this? And Elon Musk did go ahead and change it to X. Twitter has been rebranded as X. That's going to take a little bit of getting used to, especially for people who are super active on Twitter. I just really use Twitter to tweet out the show, or I guess I don't say that anymore. I just use Twitter to X out the show. I guess that's what you're supposed to say now. It's all very confusing. One other quick thing on social media, and this surprised me. I did not expect to see this, and I did not have a chance to pre-read this. But Mediaite says could face a year in jail. House Republicans plan to hold Mark Zuckerberg in contempt of Congress. It says here, Fox News correspondent Hillary Vaughn reported today that House Republican plan to move forward with holding Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Meta, in contempt of Congress. Oh, speaking of things changing names, went from Facebook to Meta. Sandra Smith, anchor Sandra Smith, who then introduced Vaughn, said, quote, Fox News has confirmed the House will move forward to cite Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg for contempt of Congress. House Republicans say The social media giant has not turned over enough documents that would shine a light on the company's censorship bans. And then Vaughn reported, quote, Sandra, this is all part of the House Judiciary Committee's investigation into whether or not media coordinated with the White House and the executive branch to censor people on their platform and, by extension, violating the First Amendment rights of users on their platform, unquote. By the way, that's all nonsense, and this is something we've discussed on the show many times. These are private companies. They have every right to make decisions about what will and won't fly on their platforms. It is not a violation of your First Amendment rights. I've complained about it myself, right? I've had my issues with YouTube where I get dinged by YouTube for something in my show because I upload the show to YouTube, and then they say that I'm promoting a conspiracy theory or whatever, even though I actually make fun of that stuff. But the bots that monitor the content, they don't know the difference. So then I get a violation, and then I appeal it, and I lose the appeal, and then I can't upload anything for a couple of weeks. So I complain about it too, being unfairly censored based on nonsense. But what have you never heard me say? I've never once said my First Amendment rights are being violated. YouTube has no obligation to me. It's their platform. They can make whatever rules they want, no matter how stupid or poorly enforced I might think those rules are. They don't owe me anything. They don't owe me they don't even have to allow me on their platform if they don't want to. They can, that's their platform. They're not the government. The government cannot censor you. But these platforms can censor me all they want to. They have every right to do it. So I complain about it because it's done in a haphazard and silly way sometimes, right? Some things probably should be repressed, hate speech and things like that, but on these platforms. But you've never heard me say it's a violation of my First Amendment rights. It absolutely is not. But this is worth investigating, apparently. Okay. I want to get to one other thing because I did promise this early in the show. And we do have time. So I saw this. It's an opinion piece that popped up on thehill.com. And it kind of, I kind of vibe with the sentiments here because this is how I feel. Now, in terms of President Biden's record, I'm such a political square peg. I'm hard to please. So suffice it to say, there are things I like and things that I don't. There are things I give him credit for where I think he's done a very good job in some ways. And there are things I would be very critical of. But putting that aside for a moment, I don't think he should run for re-election. He is running. I've said on the show, I think he's selfish for doing so. The number one thing that I wanted out of President Biden was getting in there and having a clear, consistent, concise, but consistent being probably the most important part of it, actually, policy on dealing with COVID and getting vaccines distributed and so forth. And I think in terms of shepherding us through the pandemic in that sense, I think he did a great job. And that's what we needed at that point. And for that, I say, thank you, Mr. President. Now, good night. It's time to let somebody else get in there. That's my opinion. But I haven't heard too many people express what I was thinking in quite the way I was thinking it until I saw this. So this is, and I'm not familiar with this person. He's an opinion contributor. That's how he's listed here on thehill.com. Eugene R. Fidel. And this is the title of his piece. Great job, Mr. President. Time to retire. And here's what he wrote. I don't know if we'll get through the whole thing, but I want to read part of this and just comment on it as we go, time permitting. He writes, rarely in American history has it been as clear that the two major parties' nominations for president are interactive. What one party does is likely to have an impact on what the other party does. On the Republican side, of course, former President Donald J. Trump has a commanding lead, while President Joe Biden currently has no serious competition among Democrats. The possibility of a three-way race cannot be discounted, especially given Trump's likely unwillingness to sit idly by and watch if his legal problems topple his effort to reclaim the presidency. So yes, it's complicated. This column is one lifelong Democrat's effort to sort through some of the many imponderables. Wow, that's the second time that word has come up today on the show. John Hopwood used it earlier. Imponderables. Doing so leads to a single conclusion. President Biden can take great satisfaction in the many important positive things he has done in domestic and foreign policy. And the best thing he can do now is to retire after completing his term, allowing a new generation of leaders to take up the Democratic Party's banner. Would Biden win if he continues his plan to run again? The answer depends on him, other Democrats, and the Republican Party faithful. If he runs against Trump, there is every reason to expect that Biden would win again, although it could be an electoral college squeaker. But let's assume a victory. We would have a president who would be older than any of his predecessors on Inauguration Day and who would be 86 years old when his successor took the oath. I wish President Biden the best of health, and he may live to be 120. But the job of chief executive and commander-in-chief is too demanding and critical to take unnecessary chances. He is too old to be signing on for another 4 years. Doing so is irresponsible. Let me stop there for a moment. I fully agree. You call me ageist all you want to, guilty as charged. I'm sorry. You do age out of things, right? I mean, if you're 60 years old, you're not going to try out for the NFL. Just as a random example, right? If you're 80 years old, you probably shouldn't be seeking another term as president. I mean, I'm sorry, but we need to get some younger energy in there. That's my opinion. So a little bit more of this. Fidel writes, what if something were to happen to Biden between the 2024 Democratic National Convention and Election Day, or between Election Day and Inauguration Day? Suppose his health holds, but sometime during his second term, he suffers a disabling health decline, or worse. We would have to employ the 25th Amendment, or Vice President Kamala Harris would become president in his place, either temporarily or for good. Has she shown herself capable of leading the country? Worse yet, if she did ascend to the highest office, would she be able to secure the required Senate and House approval of her choice of a successor as vice president? Suppose, for example, the GOP continues to hold on to a bare majority in the House of Representatives. Would the House vote for a Democrat as vice president, knowing that the alternative of keeping the position unfilled would place the Republican House Speaker as the next in line of presidential succession? Oh, that's interesting. He's bringing up scenarios I would have never even thought about. And what if the GOP loses the House but gains a majority in the Senate? Am I the only one who thinks Senator Mitch McConnell, he of the Merrick Garland Supreme Court blockade, would be perfectly willing to block Senate approval of a Harris nominee as successor vice president? Or that Senator Joe Manchin might once again use his leverage to a bad end? What if Trump is... Now, here's a scenario I have thought about. What if Trump is not the 2024 GOP nominee? I mean, he will be, but he might, of course, try running as a third-party candidate, but it seems likely that doing so would only benefit Biden. But put aside the possibility of a Trump third-party run, how would Biden do against some other Republican nominee? Looking over the current field, none of the Republican hopefuls seem likely to do better against Biden than Trump did in 2020 when he lost. By the way, that part I disagree on. I think, Trump, I've talked about it quite a bit on the show. As Trump's legal problems mount, so does the certainty that he will be the nominee, because it only strengthens, the resolve of his base who believe he's being unfairly persecuted and see him as, this sort of martyr. But it makes him that much more likely to be the nominee, but it also makes him that much more of a horrendous general election candidate. So I actually think one of the others in the field would absolutely be a stronger candidate against Biden than Trump. So I disagree on that part. Because if it's Biden versus Trump, Biden beat him once. I believe he can do it again. But if it's Biden versus Nikki Haley or Chris Christie or Tim Scott, I think Biden's in real trouble, because Biden is going to look, if he's on that debate stage, for example, against somebody half his age, he's going to look like he's on that debate stage with somebody half his age. Understand? He's going to look that much older. So I think anybody else in the field is a severe threat. Okay, just a little bit more of this. And what if, as I hope Biden opts to retire after one term, Trump, if nominated again, would be a wounded general election candidate, which is the point that I was just making, and wouldn't hold much appeal for the independents and moderate Republican voters he would need to succeed on Election Day. There are several proven vote getters in the next generation of Democratic office holders who would beat either Trump or any of the current field of GOP hopefuls. Well, maybe. Examples include Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar and the popular governors of Wisconsin, Illinois, California, Maryland, and Pennsylvania. Even relatively obscure governors can be attractive presidential candidates. Think of Jimmy Carter and Bill Clinton. Nor is there a shortage of impressive Democratic candidates of color who might make up for Vice President Harris's not getting the brass ring. The author gives some examples there, but we're running out of time. I'm going to scroll down to the last paragraph because we are up against the clock. President Biden has enjoyed an unusually long and successful career in public life. The best thing, the wisest and most noble thing he can do now is to clear the way for the next generation of leaders to compete for the office he currently holds. Unlike President Lyndon B. Johnson's March 31, 1968 announcement that he would not run for a second full term, Biden's abandoning the quest would be an act of both patriotism and optimism. It would also set the stage for the next Democratic president to be able to serve 2 terms, thus cementing Biden's significant legacy much more firmly in place. So that is the opinion piece written by Eugene R. Fidel, senior research scholar at Yale Law School, and writes for thehill.com. So I agree with most of that. And, I've said on the show many times, I think President Biden is very selfish for not stepping aside and allowing somebody else in there. That's my view of it. All right, we're going to finish out with one more track. Again, thank you so much to Josh Garcia from Grandma Mousey for joining us today on the show. We're going to play a little bit of one of their previous singles, Grasshopper. Probably won't get the full song, and actually we definitely won't. It is Tuesday, which means coming up right after this show, if you are listening live, we have Through the Stage Door, hosted by Rob Dion, followed by, at 7 p.m., a replay of Friday's Retro Spectrum Radio with Paulie C right here on WMNH 95.3 FM. If you missed any part of today's show, it will be up in just a little bit at WMNHradio.org and at my website, mattconnarton.com. And I'm out. I'll talk to y'all a little bit later. Bye, everybody.